Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another broadcast of The Weekly with me, Neff. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video with a couple of family members, friends, and colleagues. I appreciate the support. And with that being said, this is going to be the review for Predator Badlands. So, gonna jump into it, gonna try to keep it spoiler-free, and also gonna try to keep it swift. We've been talking about this film for a couple days this week. We talked about those Rotten Tomatoes scores. We talked about what the critics thought about the film. We talked about what the audience thought about the film overall. And then we talked about just some scores with IMDb and Fandango as well. But on my perspective of the film, I thought the film was a pretty solid film overall. I thought the film was fun at times. I thought there was a little more comedy than you see in typical Predator films, but I thought the comedy landed well, and I think it was well timed. Now, when I say comedy, it's not so much like, oh, there's a joke or a one-liner there, but there is some dialogue within the film in certain scenes that adds levity to, I guess you could say, the overall tonality of the film. And if I do have to critique one thing about the film, I'd say the tonality doesn't match up with the other Predator films that I've seen before. And I've personally seen every Predator film except that 2018, The Predator film. And so let's just jump into it a little bit here. So with Predator Badlands, I will say, based off those reviews we saw going into the film, and I didn't look at much promo going into the film. I think I watched that first trailer that they did release, and it might have been the teaser before they even released the trailer, so I'm glad I didn't watch all of that because they did promote that film quite heavily. But in the reviews, it stated that you're getting a different perspective, and I have to agree with that. With this film, it's a unique film because you are seeing everything from the Predator's lens for the first time. You've never seen this in the franchise if you are familiar with the franchise. The only thing I could say comes close to this would be Alien vs. Predator, that first Alien vs. Predator film. In the second one, Requiem, it reverted back to the human element of these films, and you kind of see that with Predator and Alien. And so with this film, you're actually seeing it from the Predator's perspective for the most part. Now, you do have some Weyland-Yutani synthetics in there, so they have blended not the genres, but I guess the two worlds there with Weyland-Yutani and then the Yautjas. So you're seeing that as well. And I think this does build up for a crossover, right? When you have this much Weyland-Yutani and Yautja symbiosis, then you know something's definitely going to be leading up into the future. But I don't think they focused on that so much. It was just kind of there, something in the background that was interesting and something that ties in Alien with it, right? So anybody that's a fan of Alien, you got to see little tidbits in the film, little Easter eggs of such as Mother, you know what I mean? So you got to see that as well. So you have Elle Fanning's character, you have Thea and you have Tessa, right? So they're sisters there. Not going to go in too much into that. Remember, they're synthetics. Now, that's not a spoiler because if you watch the trailers, then you know that Elle Fanning's character is a synthetic. But Thea is the main character that you see with Dek. He is the Yautja that you are following, right? And Dek has his own arc. So you're basically following this film through Dek's eyes. And like I said, I don't want to give away too many plot points, but I will say this is the first time you are seeing a Predator film through a Yautja's perspective. So that's why it made it very unique for me. Now, this film is PG-13, right? This is the first PG-13 film in the Predator franchise. Dan Trachtenberg has worked on 3 Predator projects at this point. He's worked on Prey, he's worked on Killer of Killers, which is animated, and that premiered on Hulu exclusively, and now he has worked on live action, his second live action Predator, but his first theatrical release, Predator Badlands. And so all of these things do connect. And this is the first PG-13 film in the Predator franchise, like I said. And I will have to say, for it being PG-13, I can see why it was PG-13, and it still holds up as far as consistency. And so that's why I graded this film very well, because I don't feel like it ever fell off. When you want to go watch a Predator film, you expect certain things at this point in time, with the franchise being around 30 to 35 plus years. And I feel like even with those certain elements that weren't there, it still held up with those other films that we've seen before in the past with Predator. I did love the tech. That's one thing that I like about Predator films, the tech that the Yautjas are using. The tech and the elements and also their tactics. I like to see how they think when they approach prey or anything else, even if they're being hunted. I think a lot of people that don't like Predator, as far as it being one of those films where, and I guess you could say characters, where it's like, okay, the Predator has all of this tech, they're far advanced, they're facing people that aren't on their same level, so really it's kind of easy for them. This is just catch and do whatever they want to do with them, right? I feel like this film is different as well because the Predator has to revert to rudimentary tools to actually survive, and he's being placed on a planet, a preserve that he's not familiar with himself, so he doesn't have the advantage as well. And I thought that was a very interesting perspective and new perspective as well. Almost a training ground for the Predator, but it fits the story itself. And one thing that I want to add that I really did like about the film is that the Predator does have to resort to rudimentary tools and tactics to then try to get the advantage on his opponent. And so really did like that angle. And so with that being said, I think it goes into, I think this expands the demographic of people that may be off-put by Predator when they look at it and they say, okay, the Predator's overpowered. Typically, the Predator does lose in the end, but they start off overpowered and it doesn't seem like a fair fight. With this one, they really even the playing field. And so the Predator is the one that's on the short end of the stick and is at a disadvantage. So I did like that they did that. But overall, I thought the acting was great. I thought the world building was great. I thought the connection between Weyland-Yutani and the Yautja species was great. I thought the character arc of Dek, the main character, the Yautja himself, was really good as well. Thought the pacing was fine. The film was about 1 hour and 46 minutes, so pretty much a breeze. It was very action-packed. There wasn't a lot of lull. There wasn't any dead spots to me. If there was dialogue that led into action, I thought the dialogue made sense for the script and it pushed the narrative forward. There were some cool moments between the two characters. There's another character as well, and it ties into the main story arc of Dek, but between Thea and Dek himself, right? And then there was another character as well. That was a part of the film, and it ties into the grander scheme of the plot. I thought that was well done as well, so I really did like that. Like I said, there are some scenes in the film that are comedic, but they're not over the top, and they're well placed. I think they're pretty solid when it comes to placing them in this film that is serious. Like I said, comparing this to other Predator films, and I wanted to compare this really to Prey and Killer of Killers, which are both, like I said, Trachtenberg's work. I think that's the fair thing to do. I would say the tonality isn't as serious as those films, but I do think the film excels in every other aspect of Predator films in general. Arguably, you could say this is the third best Predator in the franchise, to be quite honest. The only film I guess you could argue is better than this one is obviously the original Predator and then Predators from 2010. I thought those were both, but like I said, didn't want to compare it to those films. Predator 2, I guess you could argue between those two, but personally, I really did like Predator Badlands. I thought the beginning sequences of Predator Badlands were better than Predator 2. In my opinion, Predator 2 was kind of shaky in the beginning, and then you get the cool stuff towards the middle and the end of the film. But it is a build-up, which you do typically see in Predator films. This one, there was no build-up. It was action off the top, so I really did like that. That makes it different and unique as well. I do think Dan Trachtenberg is the guy for Predator at this point in time. He's put out 3 decent projects, and I think he deserves his right to take over Predator at this point. So I think Predator is in good hands overall. Like I said, I enjoyed this film, not trying to give any plot points away. I want people to go watch this film. I do think it is deserved of the watch in theaters. I watched it in the biggest screen that I could have in my area, and I thought it was worth the watch for sure. I'd probably watch this film again. I think I may have missed maybe 2 minutes of the film overall, but for the most part, I saw everything leading into the introduction of the film, and so overall I give this film a 7.8 out of 10. Predator Badlands gets a 7.8 out of 10, 2 thumbs up. I say go watch it in theater, especially if you're into sci-fi action, and especially if you're into the Predator franchise. The visuals were on point. Can't remember a single frame where I said, that doesn't look that good. The CGI was kind of lame there. There was a couple scenes, there was 3 scenes that really stuck out to me. I was really impressed with. Dek is fighting a specific species on this planet, and there's a slow motion scene when he ends up becoming the victor of that particular bout. Then there is another scene there where there is an explosion, slow motion style, behind Dek after he's gone into battle, kind of reminiscent of Desperado, but just slow that down a little more, right? Kind of zooms out very slow, and I thought that was a very good scene there. The frame was great, and then there was a scene towards the third act of the film where you do have, I want to say, was it Thea's character? She's fighting some other synthetics, and I thought that scene was well done as well. There was 3 scenes in particular that really stood out to me, and it wasn't full out drawn 5 to 10 minute scenes, but the particular frames were shot very well, and I think it's one of those things when you see it, you're going to say, you know what, that was well done. And I can't forget there was a fourth one, right? Deck is fighting a machine at this point in time, and Thea's sister is controlling this machine, and I thought that was well done. That sequence overall, as far as action, was well done. I thought the fight choreography, whoever did the fight choreography, did very well with this film, and they did a good job, and so you can see that on screen. But overall, yeah, definitely go watch Predator Badlands. Like I said, I think that was a pretty quick review for the film. Kind of gives you the gist of what I thought about it. Tonality, I'd say it's probably not the most serious Predator film, but for everything it doesn't do with the tonality, I think it ups in other areas. So definitely go watch that and let me know your thoughts on the film. 7.8 out of 10 for Predator Badlands. Definitely a watch in theater. If you've seen the film, comment down below what you thought about this film. Let me know where it ranks as far as the Predator franchise for you. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. There's also some, you could say, cameos towards the end, but I don't want to spoil anything. It's kind of open-ended there, right? Deck makes a statement, but it is a spacecraft that we've seen in another Predator project that Dan Trachtenberg has worked on, so I'll let everybody think about that and stew on that. But if you've seen it, let me know your theories. I want to hear your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with some family, friends, and colleagues. Ring the bell for notifications. We're getting towards the end of that strike there, about 3 to 4 days left, so I'm very happy about that. Definitely going to be uploading a little more, and I hope people continue to support. I appreciate it. Be safe. It's Neff signing off.